Hey, everybody. If you have tuned into the Building Doctor show before, you might notice that I am not Jens Johansson. I am in his office, though. So, Jens, if you're watching, I'm not giving it back. My name is Kelly Garland. I'm the Client Success Manager at J2 Building Consultants. And this is a special episode of the Building Doctor show because, in honor of Women's History Month, we are letting the women do the work this time. And we have a great panel of women from the industry, female leaders that are really excited to talk to you about a wide spectrum of things, not just about women. So if you're a guy watching, don't click away, don't go anywhere. I promise there's useful information. But let's go ahead and meet our panelists. We're going to start off with Jessica Malurk.
I'm the design manager at J2. I oversee all of our design projects in all three offices. Happy to be here.
All right, next up, Andrea Goodmanson.
My apologies. Andrea Goodmanson, I'm a co-owner of McLeod Construction. We're a general contractor that does repairs and renovations on HOAs and condos. And my role in the company is basically CFO and a little bit of marketing.
All right, and let me just, I need a minute. I'm new at this, so I'm going to ask our producer to come on in. I've got a little bit of a technical issue, but while she's fixing that, we're going to go to Sam and she's going to introduce herself.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Samantha Oldham. I'm with Trestle Community Management. I'm a senior manager there. I've been a manager in the industry for 6 years now and been in the industry with business partners and whatnot for over 10. So happy to be here. Thanks.
All right, ladies, thank you so much. While we're getting this small issue figured out, we're going to go ahead and I think we've got it here. All right. Could one of you say something real quick so I can make sure my audio is working?
Now that I figured out how to unmute.
There we go. Eureka. Carolyn, who is also a woman in the industry, doing the most, to say the least, went ahead and fixed that for me. Like I said, it's not my office, but it is now because I've commandeered it. Let's go ahead and get started, though. Back to things here. We're going to move on and talk about the things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to start off with a big picture, zoomed out, talking about just, all of the aspects that a lot of people might not even realize or do and never get to talk about it as far as women in the industry goes. And then we're going to go ahead and talk about the many aspects of our industry. We are all representing different parts of this community. So we'll talk about property management, HOA and board leadership, contractor expertise, your building consultants, of course. And then we'll go ahead and talk about the difficult things, the difficult conversations, the challenges, the things that we overcome, we adapt and overcome. And the my favorite part, the advice and the Q&A. We're going to talk a little bit of the insights and meaningful things that we as women in the industry have learned, have valued, have appreciated. So it should be fun. Let's go ahead and start. We did our introductions. We know each other well now. And let's talk about something that I thought was very interesting. I've always really enjoyed sharing, which is the statistics and how many of our companies, if not all, I think, are outliers to those statistics. The construction industry is pretty vast, which is something Andrea had mentioned in a previous conversation we had. And generally speaking, within the construction industry, we're looking at about a 10% average of women in the workforce. It's definitely a male-dominated industry. Of course, that is a little bit different in the management aspect of things, but what's not different is the interaction with the construction industry and boards and male-dominated aspects of the industry. But what I love about J2 is that we're outliers. We're a 33.3% female employed company. And what I love about that is about 85% of us are in leadership roles. So we're a company that really just respects people of all genders, who want to own their lane, are passionate about that. And I think the same would go for you. Andrea, I think you were saying that it was something similar for you guys.
Yeah, we actually are at 100 employees right now. 30, I think 31 of us are in the office, and of those office employees, we're over 30. I think we're about 35% right now in the office. So it's a good mix here in the office. We've had women in the field as well. And oh, there's a great little slide for you. Yeah, and we're seeing more and more people coming into the industry, women especially from other areas. But I think one of the best things, and especially what this is showing a little bit of the increase in participation in construction, is that the newer generations are getting exposure to the trades either through generational, like it's not just the sons learning the business, it's the daughters as well. My daughter is an employee here in the office. And there's also our carpentry trades in high schools and that sort of thing. And there's a lot more exposure, especially from the unions. They're doing a fantastic job of outreach. So we're seeing a lot. We're seeing a lot of women coming in. I just had an informational interview with a woman who actually came from nonprofits. And she was interested in the trades, and she went through a program called ANEW, ANEW, and it's a pre-apprenticeship training program. So you kind of get an exposure to the trades, and those things just weren't around, even 20 years ago. And so for people to really get a feel for what it's like, if they worked with their hands at home on remodels or whatever, they can see if construction or any of the other trades, plumbing, electrical, are right for them. So I think the exposure is definitely increased, like this chart is showing.
Yeah, and that actually brings us into some of these key reasons that we're seeing those statistical changes. Now, that's a really interesting program, ANEW, ANEW. So that it's an apprenticeship program. If you're watching, check it out. I think Carolyn can put that into the chat. ANEW, ANEW.
Yeah. If I can, I'll put their website in the chat as well if I'm allowed
great.
to. So, yeah.
Great. Yes, please do. I think that like you're saying, these hiring initiatives, the growth opportunities, these are all things that factor into, what we're seeing with women in the workforce in this industry. We have had a pretty rapid growth in the last few years at J2. And I think that we have really strong leadership. We have a visionary, Jens, who, leads the pack. And one of the things that I really love as Jens as a leader is that he seeks and empowers people to be passionate in their fields of expertise, not necessarily the industry as a whole, and lets them really own their lanes. I did not come from the construction industry. I didn't even know what a building envelope was when I started. But what I did value was J2's core values and authenticity and our desire to provide positive market disruption. And I think that has been able to be something that I've been able to translate. And I've learned a lot in the time I've been here. I actually diagnosed a building issue the other day. It was amazing. But I think having a different respect towards that concept of market disruption and kind of breaking the mold of convention as being a positive thing and a thing that has shown to have value, that's bringing a lot of people from the outside in from different aspects as well. And next, this is something I was going to lead into, so we'll go ahead and flop that slide over. First, I want to mention this graphic that you're seeing here is a J2 sticker that we have. It was designed in-house, and I really, really love that girl's tattoo. I don't have one, but I'm not going to get a J2 tattoo, but I like it. But I digress. Samantha, you are in the property management world, which we know in the employment aspect tends to be heavily female, but your clientele and your day-to-day interactions aren't necessarily the same. Why don't you go ahead and tell us more about that?
Yeah, typically most of our clients, or at least the clients that I have ever had throughout the years, is men. And so there's been a lot of difficult times where there's other factors too. I'm on the younger side. I have tattoos. I'm a woman. And so having to explain to men who are, 40 years my age, how to do something with their money or their buildings or whatnot, you have to present yourself in certain ways where you're confident in the things that you're saying so that you can gain respect of those that you're talking to. So it's been a challenge in a lot of ways, but luckily with experience, you learn that every client is different and you adapt to everyone and you just, kind of jump in as best you can. Oh, and yeah, wearing different hats, like I said, adapting to everyone. So we utilize any tools available to us, like business partners, for example, to also help with those conversations and whatnot. And so far it's worked out.
I'll say. And speaking of the tattoos, I had a mentor at a previous job I had. She's a really strong female leader who once said to me, your tattoos, your work is going to speak a lot louder than your tattoos will. And I really appreciated that. And I think that your work speaks way louder than your tattoos do, but I love your tattoos too.
Thank you.
um, Moving on, Jessica, you're in a really interesting dynamic, and I was trying to figure out how to word this in a way that didn't feel like I was assessing stereotypes, but let's just be honest, sometimes a stereotype exists because it does. And in the design world, I think that when we speak to matters of the aesthetic, that really does tend to be something that women fall deeper into being passionate about and more detail oriented about. And so, what are some of the dynamics that you see in working with boards in design?
Oh, I mean, you kind of have to learn to read a room a little bit. And, especially with our projects, I think that, money is usually the driving force when it comes to the design decisions in our projects that we work on. So, I try to be respectful of the budget because that's usually the thing that everybody is so focused on. And, it's these are the most expensive projects that most people go through, especially for construction wise. This is their biggest asset that they own most times. So, you know, being respectful of that and suggesting where I feel that money can get, or products in general can get them the most bang for their buck on their building. And sometimes they can't afford it, but I guess what? Paint can do wonders with the siding. It just it totally changes the feel if you white trim and darker siding, or reverse that and do light siding with dark trim. And, I think that also being honest with them is helpful in the process. I'm not afraid to gently tell the board that I don't think something is a good idea. And I think that earns me respect and they appreciate my honesty. Um, so yeah, and also just relating to them. I've done projects on my own house. It's not fun. It's not fun spending money on things you don't want to do, leaks or broken appliances that lead to more damage. So, being there and trying to reiterate that we're there as their advocate for the project tends to help them relax a little bit, knowing that they're in good hands, and that usually sets us in the right path for the project moving forward.
In your experience, do you find that when design committees exist on boards and whatnot, are those typically female-led, male-led? Does it run the spectrum?
It's a mix. Sometimes it's all women, sometimes it's all boys, sometimes or men. And sometimes I'd say majority of the time it's a mix. And regardless of the gender, they usually come to me to help them make decisions because every board, every project is different. Sometimes they have strong opinions one way or the other on an item, and sometimes they all have different opinions, which makes things interesting. But I try and keep them focused on the big picture and remind them of the things that are most important. Sometimes that's budget, sometimes that's aesthetic, and sometimes that's function. And then we kind of move forward from there.
I think this is why I don't serve on any design or aesthetic committees, because everything would have glitter if I had my say. Everything. We'd bedazzle every door in our condo. So this is my favorite part because we're going to break some rules and everybody's going to go off mute on this one. And, we had a few conversations leading up to this. So everybody take those microphones off mute. We're breaking rules, breaking barriers and breaking rules. So we had a couple of rehearsals prior to this show. And one of the things that we all discovered was that we converse really well. And another thing that women have is a strong suit. So we thought, it'd be really cool if we just took some time and just had some discussions, talked about some things that we all, know and feel as women in the industry. We're going to talk a little bit about some of those challenges and maybe commiserate a little bit. But I'm really interested to know how we all got started in the industry. So we can go one at a time, but let's all feel like, we can speak up when something inspires us. We'll start with Samantha this time since I'm going top down, down top.
Sounds good. Well, I mean, I was on a totally different life path before I came to be a community manager. I went to culinary school. I thought that it was great to, make beautiful plates and feed people, and they were always happy because they were eating good food, and, they were easy to please, but the industry itself wasn't a fun necessarily place to work in, and kitchens are hot and a lot of chefs aren't very nice and whatnot. I wanted to be in a little bit of a more different atmosphere. And so I left that completely and went over to administrative roles. And I remember I would talk to, so there's a little bit of a difference between property managers and community managers, but we won't get into that. But I was talking to property managers a lot when I was at a pest control office. And the gal told me that she was sitting by a pool with her laptop doing her job. And I said, well, I want to do that one day. And so that's actually how I got into this industry, just by being envious of her sitting by a pool. And so from there, I just, I had no idea what I was doing in the beginning. I didn't know what a governing document was or anything. I was young, and it just stuck. And then I set goals for myself, and here we are today, and I love it. And I'll probably be in it until the day I die. And that's going to be a really long time. So
I love it. I'm all for the long life and all for the sitting by the pool. Clearly, I don't spend a lot of time by the pool because I'm looking at all four of us on this panel, and one of us is a little pale.
I thought that was a filter.
We'll blame it on the light or the weather or something.
Yeah.
But Andrea, how did you get started in the industry?
Well, I actually had a lot of different stuff going on. So when I went to college, I was an English major. I thought I was going to be a teacher, but I could read and I could write about what I read, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't tell this group, but I was a court reporter for a while, thinking that I wanted to be my own boss and have that control. But found out that I didn't like being the conduit of other people's thoughts and actions. I wanted to be part of the conversation. So I started temping and ended up working in commercial real estate for about 8 or 9 years. When I met my husband, who was a carpenter and owned his own construction company at the time. And when we found out we were pregnant after we got married, I said, well, you're going to have to get, or actually, no, he was working, doing his thing. I was pregnant. We had our first daughter, and continued going that way. And then we found out we were having twins. And I'm like, okay, it's going to cost more for daycare than it is for me to continue working, which is a common thing, even more so now, I think. And so I said, you got to get a real job that has benefits. And he got hired on with a company where we ended up buying that company. He ended up being the general manager. I worked part-time while my kids were infants, and I did a little bit of marketing and office work there. And then we bought the company in 2005. And it's interesting because of what I do now. I do legal review, so my court reporting skills come into play. I did permit research for a developer in our firm when I was doing commercial real estate, so that came into play. And the teaching is still there, right? I think we all teach a little bit, so you never know what those skills that you're learning and the path that you take will take you to help you where you are. And I think all those things were valuable for me.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. I didn't know you
Yeah.
had twins. My goodness.
All 3 girls, so more girls, girl power, and yeah,
Wow.
and they're all on their way to launching, shall we say?
I love it. I love it.
Andrea, when I was younger, like elementary school, I used to want to be a teacher as well.
Yeah.
And I would hold my book like teachers did, like where they go like this to like show so I would read to all my like stuffed animals, like I was the teacher presenting it to them. Oh goodness.
Oh no, I made math worksheets for my little brother.
That's like bullying.
You're younger than me. But I was like, I made worksheets and I made multiple copies, and oh yeah, it was a thing.
Love it.
I'm gonna start making worksheets for the guys around here when I'm angry at them. Just now you have extra homework. Jessica, you also are a mom, but how did you find your way into this industry?
My background is in interior design. I knew from day one that I wanted to do design, and that's pretty much the only thing I considered when looking for schools. And my husband, when we got married, he was in the military, so we bounced around and I jumped between a few design firms. And the job that I had before coming to J2 was most designers' dream job. The firm was big. Our work won awards. Our projects were featured in magazines. Budgets weren't really a thing. Clients almost never told us no, but that came with a price for me because I was working long hours. It was in a big city, so the commute was very long. And it was just high stress of having to constantly come up for something new, not just only for my own projects, but within the company as well. You're competing. It felt like a little bit of a competition of like who can come up with the new coolest thing. I was burnt out. And my husband left the military. We moved to follow his job, and I wanted a job where it was easy. It didn't require a lot of thought. I was just mentally burnt out. I love CAD. I could do CAD all day, every day for the rest of my life. And so I found a drafting position with J2. Um, and I interviewed, went through the process, and Jen says, what do you know about exteriors? I said, well, nothing. I know everything from the stud in, but not necessarily from the stud out. And he said, great, we can teach that. You're hired. And I worked my way up from entry-level designer within the company to managing the design team across all three offices. So yeah, I think it's important to find the company that you feel included in and valued, and that I think what has made me successful at J2 in general.
That's perfect. And it really parlays into our next topic. But Jessica is one of a few employees who have gone from one J2 office in one state to another. She started off in the Washington office, was not a giant fan of our weather, which is apparently going to be crazy today. I'm seeing tornado warnings and stuff. It's very Wizard of Oz. But she went down to our Utah office. And a fun fact that I like to share is that Jessica's last day in the Washington office was the day before my first day in the Washington office. And we are like some of the closest coworkers, having never worked in the same office together. So thank you, technology. But I actually came to J2 by way of just a lifetime of careers that all lent themselves to people engineering on some level. I also taught, but very, very young children, which is probably why, if you've ever been to a J2 trade show booth, it's a little bit of a, jovial, childlike experience.
They're fun.
And I worked at the big giant software company in Redmond that probably makes the document you type your documents on. And I was doing customer and partner focused development events. And so really similar to what I'm doing now, which is hearing people out, hearing what their pain points are, hearing what their concerns, how we can develop things that solve those problems. And the advertisement for J2's job for this role just seemed like more of that. I want to help people. This job needs someone to come help people. And so luckily I was at a job where I would finish a lot of days and think, I wonder if anyone knew I was here today. And I probably would have kept doing that forever. But luckily, the pandemic went ahead and pushed me in the right direction. And I came to J2 that way. And it was one of those things where it was like, well, I'm in a scary situation because jobs and careers are different now. And so I applied for this job. And after my first interview, just meeting the people who interviewed me and seeing Jen's authenticity, and there was no like conventional questions. I'm not easily disarmed by interview questions, and he managed to do that. So that's how I landed my way here. And then Jessica could go to Utah. But but that kind of leads us into what strengths of women in leadership and leadership in general. Let's talk a little bit about the strengths and what do we think good leadership brings to the table, both in female leadership and in leadership in general. And then also maybe we're going to get to some of the challenges after that. So we'll stick to our positive first, and then we'll go to our challenges in women in leadership and whatnot second. But what do you guys think? What strengths do women bring to leadership roles?
I think if you go back in time, I don't even know how much time because I wasn't alive yet, but go back in time. Women have always kind of been project managers. If you think about it, historically they maintained homes and children and threw dinner parties and were on a lot of, I don't know, I'm going to call them committees. I don't know what they were called back in the day, but all the little clubs and card clubs and things like that. And, so being able to manage all of those things still applies to today, and all of the different things now that women are doing that they weren't doing back then. And so I think that multitasking, adapting, being empathetic and whatnot kind of all plays together in that leadership role that I'm not going to say all women are, leadership bound, but most women probably have a leadership type of mentality in them. And so I think it just is great historically how we've grown and been able to utilize those tools still today.
Well, going further back in history, I think I had mentioned that there's actual science to this, and it goes back to hunter-gatherer days.
Yeah.
So the notion of the way we solve problems, I'm sure we have all had a gentleman in our life that may think that we overthink things or perhaps make things too complex. That actually goes back to our primitive beginnings. The hunter mentality is, I see the thing, I kill the thing, I eat the thing. With the gathering mentality, it's I've got to know what we can eat, where it is, how it grows, when to pick it, what's poisonous and what isn't. There's just so much more complexity that goes into that level of, procurement for survival than I see the thing, I kill the thing, I eat the thing. And both have a time and place in problem solving. I think that's why teams of, a balanced dynamic in leadership work so well. Because you do need the person that can say, like, here's the linear execution of this problem. And you do also need the person that says, okay, let's consider all things so that, we can predict what we can predict. And then when the thing that we didn't predict happens, you come back into the see the thing, kill the thing, eat the thing mentality. So we need both, but next time you're told as a woman that you're overthinking things, you let them know that you're just respecting your cave woman ancestors.
Or over communicating something.
Over communicating,
Yeah.
yes.
You just
made
made
a problem here. We communicate.
point. I have a lot of clients, board members that they're so quick to just act on things. And so part of my role is saying, hey, whoa, like, hold on, let's gather all the information we need to be able to make a sound decision in this, because otherwise we can make mistakes and whatnot. So I appreciate that, the thinking about everything through first is a great mindset to have.
So it's interesting you talk about the two sides, Kelly, because I work with my husband, right? So that in itself is a unique situation, but I think what works out really well, the yin yang thing totally applies to us. He's got the entrepreneur mindset of potential growth and ways to improve, expand, whatever. And it's never been brought up as an overthinker, but I'm what's our exposure to this? It could be perceived also as pessimism or defeatism, but it's taking that big picture and saying, okay, if we do that, what are the risks, and are we willing to take them? It doesn't mean that we don't take the risks, but let's know the risks going in. And I think that also applies to whether it's design or association management, right? It's like educating your client on those risks. It's not saying you can't do them, but let's say, okay, you want aluminum rails or you want cable railing versus wood picket railings, right? So there's a cost difference, right? It's not necessarily it's a choice. There may be a longevity issue with that, but ultimately you just need to give them enough information so they can make good decisions. And I think that that's my role here in the company is that, I do look at exposure. I mean, we have company vehicles. So every time I see one of my vehicles out there, it's great. It's a billboard, but it's also exposure to the company because somebody might hit it. So, it's like, it's that mom is just like that worrying mom is kind of out there. And I'm sure there are men that do the same thing, but that is my role here is just let's look at the big picture as well.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica, what do you think about how it pertains to leadership? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I am the queen of overthinking. I think there I call there's a thing called the Jessica 2 a.m. club where I will wake up in the middle of the night and I will teams people, I will text people because I will take something very, very small and turn it into this catastrophic thing. And it goes from 0 to 100 real fast. And so for me, that overthinking is just ingrained in my DNA. But it helps, again, break things down of, you know, what color is it? What does that mean in terms of XYZ? What does that then affect? And what does that affect? And, all these little parts and pieces, that's just kind of how my brain thinks of, especially, or if something's discontinued and we need to reselect something in the project. What is that snowball effect? How does it relate to all the other materials on the building? What happens when you turn the corner? What happens when the roof comes over the edge? Like that's how I think. And with that also then comes communication of here's what happened, here's why it happened, here's what we think should happen, and then over communicating to that to the clients and even internal events as well that happen, you know, um, within a team of, all right, we made a mistake. Let's discuss it. What happened? How can we build on it? And just kind of bringing in emotions, bringing in compassion, is also, typically a woman characteristic. And
Yep.
I think it all plays in. And, when men have those characteristics, I think it's great. And I think that also makes a great leader because, no one wants to get yelled at a job, whether it's your fault or not, ever. No one should ever be yelled at on a job. So I think just having a variety of those typically women characteristics or female characteristics are not necessarily a bad thing, but work in most situations.
absolutely. I think, the empathy thing, it is a strong suit for a lot of women. I used to say a lot that I was an empath, and around the office, it kind of got like, but now I simplify it and I tell them that I'm a witch with magical powers, and that somehow is more palpable to them. So I have a broom above my desk, and I really run with that. But I think in terms of leadership, I'm a big believer that great leaders make great leaders, but you can also become a great leader by perhaps having a not so good leader. And, you learn as much by watching it done wrong as watching it done right. I've had some not so great leaders at previous positions. And so that has helped form a lot of how I want to lead or not want to lead. But having great leadership currently and here, I think really comes down to empowerment, which is the whole reason we're here. And I think anybody does better when they're empowered to do their most and their best, and being told that they're trusted, they earn the trust, so they get the trust, and being given that confidence to to try things and do things and strive to be the best at things. And you don't necessarily always see a lot of stories in a male dominated industry where one might be prone to empower a woman to move into a leadership role. And I luckily don't have that experience here. In fact, I have, very vivid. I can see Jence's face when I hear him say constantly, "We've got some strong women here." And there's just the right amount of fear behind that look. But there's a respect to it, and we love it and we appreciate it. And I think that, yeah, just any type of leadership, whether it be women or otherwise, really comes down to empowerment. Believing that somebody can be their most when they tell you and show you with their actions that they do really like lends itself to that. But on the polar side of that, let's talk about some of these challenges. And when we started our conversation initially in our rehearsals, what I loved was the way we kind of broke the seal and got things, rolling was, oh my gosh, do you have this issue? Because I had this issue, and everybody would go, yes. And I think I talk lovingly about J2 and other places I've worked. I've had wonderful mentors and leaders, but I think no place is perfect. So the caveat is that this is not a male bashing session, but I do think that we would be remiss if we didn't mention that, women still are the minority in a lot of leadership positions in industries and things like that. We have come a long way, but there are some challenges. So what are some challenges that you ladies face in your day to day?
I'm coming at from a different perspective because I am the boss. So, so I
We
get
love
to,
that though. We
you
love
know,
that.
but, it is construction, and I talk to people about their construction projects a lot. And I think that, challenges, I think the thing you have to do as a challenge, and I think this kind of talks to the strength and the previous slide as well, is that I think a lot of women know the answer, but they're not afraid to, or they're not quite sure if they should respond or not. And I think that looking at I think I'm at least willing to do all the research necessary so I understand what I'm saying, right? So I'm backing up my input or my thoughts with fact, and that's just how my brain works. And so I think that that's respected, right? So if you just say, well, I don't know what a fascia is, and I get it wrong 5 times in a row, then I don't really care, right? So it's yes, people may make mistakes, people may ask questions, but you need to learn from those questions and show that this is an industry that you want to participate in and be forward thinking in. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. It's okay to make a mistake and make 10,000 different mistakes. But if you're making the same mistake 10,000 times,
Yeah.
that's where it becomes something different.
Yeah.
Sam,
But
how
I do
about you?
think
What are some challenges?
mean, like as we know, most community managers are women. So I don't really have a struggle necessarily when it comes to being in the industry. I think more so, I'll tell you, the nasty emails typically come more from the men than the women, which is a little surprising. And so it's reminding people that they should respect each other. I was going to ask Jessica if she could actually go tell all my homeowners never to yell at me. That would be great. So I have this famous line that I say, if we cannot have a mutually respectful conversation, then our conversation needs to end and we can pick this up another time. And that like stops people. They're like, wait, what? Because it's, in doing what we do, it's easy to make people mad, and then they call you, and here we are. So mainly that angry homeowners, and then again, just having more clients that are male than female, and having to make sure that I speak with confidence and know what I'm talking about. Like Andrea said, I'll go read something 10 times until I've got it down. So that way, when I present it to someone, I look like I've been talking about that for 10 years. So little tips and tricks, but for the most part, I've been doing it long enough to where I don't really have day-to-day things anymore. I used to cry in my first few years all the time, and now it's a little different. So
I think women live longer than men statistically because they cry more. My grandfather was a doctor. He contended that that was the case. And so, a couple times a week, I just try to get a good cry in for no darn reason.
get it out and on to the next to-do list item.
Yeah. Jessica, I specifically wanted to I'm saving you for last, because like I had mentioned, you had moved offices. One of the things that I had heard said was, "Oh man, who's gonna keep us to do our dishes now? Who's gonna make sure that we do our stuff? Who's gonna do this?" And I was like, "Well, you guys should be doing that on your own." And they're like, "Oh, okay, so you'll be the one. You'll be the one that will make sure that we do it."
Whose stuff is this? Yeah.
Exactly.
I had to set down a few of those emails of like, why are there dishes in the sink? Come on, guys, this is not your home. We are not, the girls in the office are not your mom. We are not going to pick up after you. And if I cannot wash my dish because your dishes are in the way, there's going to be a problem. Just like I told my husband, he has this little blender bottle and he drinks his protein, whatever, and it's always in the sink. And I told him, if next time I see this in the sink, I'm going to throw it in the yard. And I did.
Is it at
He had
least
to go out and
rinsed
get
out?
it. And he
Does he
had
at
to
least
go-
rinse it, or is it just left there with the
It's
protein
sort
shake?
of rinsed and then just like kind of thrown in there. I hate dishes in the sink. It's a pet peeve. I can't handle it. But in terms of challenges, I think confidence is the biggest thing that I think women and myself too face. When I came out to this office, we had some project managers that quit, and I was the only one manning the Utah office, and I had to do a bid walk. And while I designed the project, I knew the project. I don't know if the contractors were trying to trip me up or if they were genuine questions, but they just came at me, and I was like, whoa, is this normal? Are you trying to make me fumble? And I just, had to take a breath and say, it's okay to not know. Like internally, I think it's okay to not know. And I just came up with I think that's a great idea. I'd like to review it with my team. Let me get back to you. I just had to realize I didn't need to have an immediate answer for everything that they were talking about. And so that kind of gave me the confidence to do the next one. And while I've backed off from doing bid walks because I like my temperature controlled office, it has played in. And sometimes I need a reminder, every time I have, my yearly review, and Jim and Jen's are just like, well, how about you do this? And how about, you're already doing this manager role. Do you want to do this? And it's like, oh yeah, I guess I am already doing those skills. Like, you can do this. It's like, okay, yeah, I can do that. And just having that reminder of, yes, I can do that has always been helpful too.
Yeah. I think I've learned to take the stereotypical perception when it presents itself and kind of enjoy it a little bit, because I think that life is more fun with the element of surprise. And so I fondly remember that, in the first days that I had worked for J2, we had an association that just wanted to meet potential consultants and contractors and individuals about a potential project. They were in the very preliminary stages. And so they wanted a representative from the company to go out, and Jen's had a schedule conflict. So he said, okay, you just go out. You'll go out. And I thought, uh-oh, what if I can't? But I went out there and I pulled the car, little J2 car, and I got out, and someone in the group goes, oh, that's not who we're waiting for. That can't be who we're waiting for. And I went, actually it is. And everyone looked like, well, Jen's hired a Muppet. What is going on? And then, we're still working with that association to this day, which I love. I spent more time with the client looking at all the earrings that she hand makes, which were amazing. And the rest of the guys kind of stood there not knowing what to do. So I
We
think
connect.
it's where sometimes breaking that mold is an asset. And I think that some other things that we get, stereotypically marked with, I'm sure anybody that has heard a man talking about fighting with a woman, they'll say, women, they keep the receipts. So you can be fighting about something, and all of a sudden a woman has an ironclad memory of like, well, actually in 1982 on Tuesday at 3 p.m., you said this one thing. And so while it is an asset in an argument, I think it's also an asset in the project world. I think that we can assess good impact and core memories to things that need to be remembered for future reference and lessons in projects. When we see a board suffer due to putting things, putting a process out of order or making a misstep, nobody likes to see that. And because we have that empathy, we carry that feeling of, I don't want people to feel like this. So now I know that this is something I need to preemptively warn boards and whatnot about. And having that like association of feelings to lessons to keeping the receipts can be an asset, because we all have had situations where we see boards that are in just really rough spots, or we have to be the bearer of bad news. And it's gut wrenching. Nobody loves it. And all we can do is be better, do more, do different going forward, and hope for the best. And I think that empathy is an asset in that respect too. I often find that, I think I've been in town hall or board meetings with all of you at some point. And at some point there is an instance where we have to say, okay, let's stop talking about this, because I hear you in the things that are not being said with words. You're stressed and you're scared and you're upset. And let's talk about that for a minute, because we can't move forward unless we can get past that roadblock of our emotions. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, well, and I think that setting expectations in this industry is also really important in all of what we do, right? So, but what are people's expectations? And so I think one of the things that we learned early on, because we do work with building exteriors and deck coatings in particular, is access is going to be, blocked. And especially working from home, that's an issue. There are going to be smells. There's no way to get around the smells. And if we're tented, the smells might increase and it might reduce your light. And it's so much better to say that out loud and in front than have them figure it out later. And to assume what people's expectations are is the wrong way to go. So I think that, we're talking about women in the industry. And I think that, what some people may think about a construction project is going to be completely different from other people. And so having those different perspectives and giving a broader range of expectations benefits everybody, because then we don't feel like we didn't say enough and they didn't know what to ask because they didn't know what they didn't know.
Absolutely. Starting with that, really exposed authenticity is, I think, a really good way to start. And I think sharing some of yourself in that preliminary stage too. One of our senior project managers shares a lot about, like, his wife and his daughters. And I'm sure we've all been where a female in a unit is in a situation where maybe she doesn't feel safe as a result of the conditions. Like, my door lock's going to be off for a while, or there's going to be strangers in my apartment. And they'll say, like, well, I'm a female, I'm on my own. And we can sympathize and empathize with that because, we have individuals that work with women that they care about, go home to women that they care about, are women that they care about. And I think that, like, just having that, like, empathy and that respect and stuff, and the communication of just saying, like, if I over communicate in the beginning, then we save ourselves from some of this. Let's see. Oh, I'm shooting all over the place. Don't mind me.
Backwards.
I have a scroll mouse. So let's talk about advice. What advice would you give to women that are considering a career anywhere in our industry as a whole, or yours specifically? I know, Sam, this is something you're really passionate about. And so we'll go ahead and kick this off with you.
Yeah, I think me being a part of the hospitality industry, I mean, aside from, being in kitchens, I was also a server for 10 years, and I did everything from, casual dining to fine dining. So I got to see all aspects and banquets and, things like that. And just having a mom who was a nurse and, all these different things kind of taught me how to be a people person, as I like to call it. And a little bit more on the extrovert side of the world. And so for me, I want to teach other managers how to be great. I'm very successful at being a manager. I love being a manager, and I want to share that with the rest of the world. And so it's not just about telling someone what to do. It's, I think I made this reference earlier, was you're not going to go tell someone to scrub the toilets. I'll be in the stall next to them, scrubbing the toilet, showing them how to do it, kind of thing. And teaching people how to have self-confidence and whatnot is so important too. And so for me, working my way to the top of that. I don't think I want to have communities that I manage for the rest of my life, but I'd love to teach other managers on how to do that and how to have great relationships with their clients and the people we get to network with and business partners, and utilize all the tools available to them in the world that we have. So I think, gosh, what advice would I give them? Confidence, probably. Find your confidence. We see oftentimes a lot of new managers are in meetings and they stare at the screen and they don't know what to do. And, I say, hey, there's an agenda on the screen. Let's follow the agenda, and so it's just doing those kind of little things. And, like Andrea said, teaching them how to know what they're talking about. And so.
Absolutely. I think if we zoom it out, something that we all were really passionate about is the single word of advocate.
Yeah.
Just advocating. We all talked about the deeply uncomfortable world of talking about money and advocating for yourself in that respect. But I think that it runs the chasm. Confidence in advocating for oneself and advocating for the people we serve. Are hand in hand. Wouldn't you agree?
Knowing your worth, and there's difference in leadership, like you said earlier. There's people who tell people what to do, and then there's people who want to help other people grow into those roles and help people find their best versions of themselves. And so I think having those people in leadership is a great thing in the world. So
absolutely. In keeping with this, talking about work-life balance, Andrea brought up a very insightful aspect of the business that is new-ish in Washington. And like something that I think speaks heavily to work-life balance as it pertains to family life. I don't have kids, but I know a couple of you do. Now I know Andrea has twins. So Washington family paid leave, we started talking about this specifically because of paternity leave, which is a new-ish concept that we hadn't seen long ago. And again, being in that male-dominated industry, we're now seeing more guys being able to take paternity leave, which I think is wonderful. And women taking maternity leave within our industry. What are you guys' experiences with that?
Ooh, so well, first of all, I wish we had it when I had my kids. But that's what I think that that's one of the benefits of women in the workplace, right? I mean, I think we advocated for it, and now men get to also benefit from it. The time with either a newborn, whether it's adopted, whatever. But the paid leave also is to take care of elders, right? Or family members. There's so many things that's not just babies, right? But I think that it allows men to experience that as well. And it's just going to benefit us going forward as a society. It's not putting everything on the women's plate to stay home. And I think that that's where some things kept inhibited women from, moving up in industry because they had babies or they had to choose one or the other. And I think it has leveled the playing field. And I do think that we probably needed men to help us advocate for it in order to get it in place. But it was a joint venture, and it's because of the proliferation of women in the workplace that this came about. And now we're all benefiting from it. And we have carpenters that take it, and they've got, we get to celebrate babies all over the place, which is fantastic. And we also get to understand when people have bereavement and or have to take care of a spouse or something like that. And and I was going to say earlier too, one of the strengths of, I think being a woman and just business in general is you create relationships. And I think relationships are the strongest thing. You talked about, when you're on a construction project, but if somebody talks about their family, you get to know them, right? And you get to know them, and you want to do better for them, right? Whether you're knowing your client, they know you want it to be a better relationship, and it's going to be a better project because there is a relationship and not just a business transaction. And I think that that's also, I don't know that that's a woman or a man thing, but I think that it definitely time and time again, having that relationship with your clients, with your coworkers, I think has been a total benefit of having women in our industry, especially.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Jessica, you actually were, I don't know where we all have our lovely backgrounds on, but you at one point were not sure if you would be hosting the Building Doctor show from home while your future woman leader, who is
Yep.
seven now, was with you. Where'd you end up, first of all?
At the office.
Okay.
I thought my husband would be traveling this week, and it turns out he did not need to, so he's on dad duty for the evening. But yeah, I wish they had paid medical leave when I had my daughter. That was not a thing, and my husband's was supposed to get 2 weeks when I had my daughter, and that also counted the time while I was in the hospital. Like that 2 weeks went to that. And then they called him back early. So I had like 2 days with him, and it was terrible. But then I also felt this obligation of like, I want to be with my daughter, but I need to make money and help earn and contribute. So it was a very it's an added stress that should be unnecessary to an already stressful, life-changing event. So good job, Washington. I wish all states had this.
You do a really great job at balancing the work-life balance of the childcare, parental stuff, soccer games, all that sort of thing. I know that your daughter and Joe, one of our project managers, are on the same soccer team that he coaches.
Yes.
But how is that something that like you've had to work and figure out over time, or?
A little bit. I mean, I used to be the like, call me at any hours. And I still am that way, but there are some times where I was like, this can wait till tomorrow. I will respond to that tomorrow, as opposed to like immediately responding. I think kind of taking a step back, and you never get this time back, and just remembering that like, I'm gonna put my phone on the counter, and for the next 2 hours, I'm gonna be with my daughter, and no, no Instagram scrolling, no, talking on Teams or anything like that. So just learning to make that decision and making a conscious effort to do that it's hard. It's hard to disconnect. And, it's like, what if somebody calls me with a fire? It's like, it will still be there in 2 hours. It probably won't get fixed anyways, because probably after hours. So it won't happen until tomorrow anyways. And so just remembering and accepting that and trying to just not think about it is really important.
Yeah.
If it's a real fire in 2 hours, you probably don't even have to worry about it anymore.
True.
Not your problem anymore.
There are other people
Yeah.
at J2 that can handle these problems, and there's a phone tree. They'll call me if they're, I'll eventually call them.
Yeah.
Or they'll call my husband if it's a really big deal.
Hey, buddy, get a hold of you.
Where's Jessica?
Sam, you and I we sit on the other side of things. Neither of us have kids. And I think that all four of us really, where the interesting dynamic in our work-life balance lies is that we're all deeply, deeply passionate about our work and ambitious, and we take work personally, because I think that anything that's worth doing is worth taking a little personally. And balance is an interesting dynamic. I think for you guys, it's the family balance versus the work, and creating that symbiotic balance. I don't know how it is for you, Samantha, but I'm kind of a live to work person. It makes me kind of an outlier. But when you find something that you love, do it all the way,
Yeah.
And so I find myself saying a lot, balance looks different for everyone. And so what my balance isn't necessarily your balance, and learning how to respect those things are. We have boards with boundaries, it's can I call you after hours? Can I, have this conversation on a Saturday? And I think that, respecting our team by setting a universal precedence for boundaries of, business hours and whatnot is one thing, but also being able to say like, okay, well, I am different from others and you can call me at, 6, 7. I am a member of the Jessica 2 a.m. call club, because the Kelly 2 a.m. club, we meet at the same time. So we'll reach out to each other about stuff like that. But so do you find that like explaining your ambition and balance in terms of your personal life is something that you have to do sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I am not a morning person, but I am an evening person. So it's kind of like a lot of my boards, I'm like, don't talk to me before 10 a.m. because I'm not going to be somebody that you're going to want to talk to before 10 a.m. But after 10, like I'm great. And they'll see this is a bad habit. This is a bad habit. If you're a manager on here, don't do this. But I don't have that delayed send on my emails. And so like I have board members that are also night owls. And so at 1 a.m. I send them an email and they're like, they're like, oh, like, what are you doing right now? Like, and I'm just like, nothing, like, just this, my best hours are like in these late evening times. And, so I kind of connect with them a little bit and, and then there is some that try and call me after hours and I'm like, no, like, sorry, that's, this is me time. But I also, in the role that I have, I also have, I can flex time when needed and still take care of myself. I'm very fortunate in that. And so, but yeah, I like to work. My mind likes to be doing things. But I am taking my first PTO vacation in a couple weeks of 9 days
Congratulations.
off. No, my laptop is coming, but I'm not going to be on it since October of 2023. So to kind of give you an idea, normally I would take my laptop and kind of do half days, where I'm going or whatnot. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to take an actual break this time. So
For you, congratulations.
Yeah.
Are you going somewhere fun?
the Dominican Republic, I'm getting the heck out of these thunder, lightning, whatever storms is going on. And I'm going to go sit on a beach somewhere.
Run as fast as you can.
Right.
Have an extra marg on the beach for me. We're about to head into the Q&A, but I thought it would be nice to end on a positive, inspirational note. I think we all, like I said, great leaders make great leaders. So who's a woman that you guys admire, or you guys, that just a woman that has inspired you or that just impacted you in some way? Jessica?
I promise I'm not sucking up, but Kelly, You are somebody I look up to. You can cue the tears for your daily tear session.
Oh, good, because I
But
was due.
but I mean, I have a lot of women friends. They're all very, successful. But when I come to Kelly with problems or an issue, she just provides a whole different view. She sees things from, you sees things from a different angle. And sometimes that's all I need is like, "Ah, I wish I would have thought about that, or that's such a great idea, or just a different perspective, different life perspectives. And sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's professional issues. And it's so refreshing to receive that. And I always go to you with my problems. So
I'm not wearing waterproof mascara today, so we're going to move along. And Andrew, who's a woman that you admire?
When I knew that this question was coming, first person came to my mind was my mom. And that's intelligence. Her dad was also a business owner, so she kind of taught me to think like a business person. She actually wasn't allowed to be part of the business because she was a woman, but she is definitely a business mind. And everything that she's done is with integrity and intelligence, and that's what I grew up with. And so I didn't, that's what was expected, and that's where I went. So I wouldn't be who I am without her. So
You guys are killing me. How about you, Sam?
I think, my mom was the mushy side of life. And so I got like the empathy and whatnot from her. But in my career, my current boss, actually, Kelly Smith, she's been in the industry for a long, I won't say how many years, but long, long, long time. She has always been someone I can go to for no matter what. And she's great at having that outside perspective. And, sometimes people go a little emotional when they're in situations, and she's good at, resetting that and pointing things out. And she's also been a great leader for me of, how she'll ask, what can I do for you? How can I support you or help you grow? Or, and so it's just having her around has been truly incredible for my career and helped me be who I am. So
I love it. I thought a lot about this question too. And, obviously my mom was a huge influence in my life. And she always used to like to tell me that she raised me to be a warrior and not a princess, which is Kelly means warrior in Gaelic. But I struggled with the question, and maybe it seems like a cop out of an answer, but I'm just so deeply fortunate to be just held up and moved forward by so many strong women in my life. I don't know how I got lucky to be exposed to so many just genuinely remarkable women, but like I can think of so many traits in the women in this panel. I mean, and I feel the same way about Jessica, but the women in this company are just all amazing and wonderful. My mom has amazing sisters who have just really stepped up to the plate in her absence and made me feel so loved and supported. But I also have just wonderful friends. My best friend Mira was an accountant and decided that she wanted to practice social justice law, so I guess I'll just go to law school while raising two children. And I think that I live in a world that is full of women that are just deeply extraordinary and remarkable. And if I am extraordinary and remarkable, it's only because of that. And I love that I work for a company that felt that this was important, because I think acknowledging women in every aspect, in every industry, is so important. Women that serve on boards, that work, or that are, in their retired time where they shouldn't be having to do all this work, and they're serving on boards, are managers, contractors. There's just so many strong, amazing women that step up to the plate for the good of the order. And we get to see that in so many different aspects. And I'm so grateful for that. It's also not something that I would have expected, so it's a pleasant surprise that I found in discovering this industry. We're heading into the Q&A, but before we do, we've got some fun bits. if you want to stay connected with us, Jessica and I both work here at J2 Building Consultants, and our contact information is right up there. If you guys have ever reached out to J2 and you don't know how to get a hold of me, something's up. So you can call and ask for us, email us. If you have a question that may not be related to client success or design or any aspect, we'll connect you with who needs to be. So you're welcome to reach out to us anytime. And Sam, what's you like a LinkedIn connection?
Yeah, LinkedIn's good, or my email.
Mm-hmm. You have good LinkedIn posts. I enjoy your LinkedIn posts.
Oh gosh, I feel like I'm not on there enough.
Don't we all? You know, the world of communication is overwhelming. Andrea, you are an extremely busy woman.
I have a little bit more time this year. I spent
Good.
6 years on the Washington State Community Association board, and just an amazing group of people. But yeah, I'm refocusing back on the business again, so my time is back a little bit.
You have some really cool events that you're taking part in and presenting at. We'll talk about, but we're going to get to the Q&A. We've got a few pre-loaded questions that folks had. We talked a lot about this, so I don't think that we need to get too deep into it. But what's the most meaningful part of your job? Does anybody have anything they specifically want to share on that?
Getting to help people and solve anybody who's contacted me has a problem. I'm a problem solver. That is what I do for a living. So it's a way of getting to help people. And I didn't have the stomach to go into the medical field. And so it's nice to be able to still feel good about what I do day in and day out. So yeah.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Because I've got one.
Samantha's
for
was the
me,
same.
So for me, a lot of my stuff is actually for our employees. So I struggle, but I love when we can create more benefits. We've added extra holidays over the last few years, or PTO. And then, well, meaningful and fun is year-end bonuses. So to be able to thank people for all the work that they've done. So
Absolutely. I think it's the reciprocity, the culture of reciprocity for me. It's being empowered so that I may empower. It's being helped so that I may help, learning so that I may teach, and creating a stronger community. Boards, you know, they're not building experts, but neither am I. So being able to kind of reach people on meeting people where they are, because it's the same place that I am. I'm just so appreciative of those opportunities, because sometimes I've been in situations where I feel stupid asking this question, but you know, what's a soffit? I don't know. And it's nice to be able to just kind of like absorb some of that and just be like, hey, guess what? I didn't know either, but I found out and here's what it is. And so I think just those opportunities are just so valuable for all of us. And then what is a career growth path for a property manager? That's a good one. We have a property manager, but no, we don't. We have a community manager.
Oh gosh. I mean, I think it's going to be different for each person. There's some people who become managers in the industry and they're okay just doing that for their entire career, and that's great. And then there's, people like me who want to be a part of the leadership teams and, business development and, client satisfaction, and how to make our processes better and have efficiency and things. So, me personally, that's what I'm doing over here anyway. But I know a lot of people that have just loved being a manager. So
I love it. We have a question in the Q&A for the chat. What changes or initiatives do you think are still needed to create a more inclusive and supportive environment for women in building related industries? I love that one. What do you guys think? Andrew, you got one on this?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, I've done a lot of connections both through AGC of Washington, which is Associated General Contractors, as well as WSCAI. But it's amazing how much is getting out there for both, girls, boys, men, women, at a younger age. And I think that is tremendous. My daughter went through a carpentry program at her high school. It was partially funded by a Rotary group. And it's just amazing where people are really kind of reaching out and trying to get those trades into and in front of people, because honestly, with AI and everything else that's happening, especially on the repair side of the trades, that can't be replaced. That takes thinking and coming up with something on the spot, because it's not just following a plan, it's repairing something that was already there. And so it's a good, sustainable industry program that can serve you both in your home and a fantastic trade. And so I think the earlier you can get exposed to it, the better. That a new program, I talked with somebody who just got through that, and she's, like I said, she's coming from the nonprofits and experiencing what that's like, those pre-apprenticeship programs that can kind of give you exposure to it. They're out there. There probably needs to be more and more advertising for it, but this Women's Month, Women in Construction Month, we definitely get it out there in March.
I think also, you have to be proactive yourself,
Yeah.
when you're looking for a job or you want to make a job change, you're interviewing, LinkedIn is great. Reach out to employees in that company. What do you like? What do you not like? The job ad says this. Is this really what I'm going to be doing? What else are they going to ask me to do that I may not be on the job listing? Read. Readers are leaders. Get out there, do it, be proactive, and advocate for yourself.
For
Absolutely.
your worth.
Yes. And find a place that also sees your worth. I think, again, we can only get ourselves so far. Nobody is an island. I I think that it's an ugly truth, and I don't think it happens as much in our industry, perhaps. I hope, but I have been in employment situations before where I was made to feel that I needed to shrink, I needed to be less, and shrink myself and be more fragile and be more quiet, and in order to succeed or even just to exist. And I think that when we let women or all people be their true authentic selves, and we not just tolerate that, but we value it and we find where the assets in it lie, we are all the best versions of ourselves. And we can all love and trust and, accept each other as a team on a level that we couldn't otherwise. Bringing together people of great differences is how we find success. Like if you had 10 of the same person, 10 me's is too much. 2 me's is too much. I don't want to hang out with me. I'm a lot. I'd never get a word in edgeways. But I think that, being able to, like I said, meet people where they are, see what they need, hear people when they speak, and see the value in them, so that when we advocate for ourselves, we are meeting somebody that sees why we're doing it or what we're bringing to the table when we do. And I'm very lucky that I work someplace that absolutely does that.
Yeah, I think
That
I think the other part of that though, Kelly, you're talking about, let's say you are interested in the trades and you have a bad experience, right? Look for look for who the company, like who's in the company. Do you see yourself in the company? Whether you're female or any other uh variety of person. It's like, do you see yourself there? Because, just because you have a bad experience somewhere doesn't mean that that industry isn't for you. Finding the right company that has the same values, that is willing to hear you, and do you see others that are either similar or have enough diversity in personality or whatever that will accept you. And so don't be discouraged, I think, is the other part of it as well.
Oh, absolutely. I'll say it
Mhm.
louder for the people in the back, because this industry, we need strong women leaders. Boards need strong women leaders. Condo communities need strong women leaders. Design committees and construction committees and project committees and every aspect. We all need strong women leaders, and we don't become strong women leaders if we run away at the first sign of adversity. So I think we've all seen it, and we've all traversed through those gnarly forests to get where we are. And tomorrow there'll be a whole new one, I'm sure.
I think at a different point throughout our discussion today, each one of us has said that we started somewhere where we didn't know something about a topic. But I think us being the type of women that we are, all of us picked up on those things that we needed to learn. And I think that's important in the world, is especially for people who, want to make a career change or just, are they have a drive, but they don't really know what to do. Just being someone who can be taught things and adapt to situations goes a long way with a lot of companies. It's like, that's okay. We can teach you how to do that. We want to make sure that the person you are is going to fit with what we need. So,
Absolutely. That is definitely the key to success.
Hey,
You know, the key to
Kelly.
success also is winning stuff.
Well, hey, before you do that, Kelly, I saw in the chat there was a question too, is how many of us are eldest sisters in our families?
Oh.
And does that become leaders? And I am.
I am
Jessica,
the baby. I am the
Oh.
baby, but everyone thinks that I am the oldest.
I am an only child who was raised by the eldest of six.
There
And
you go.
really assumed that mom boss role, and in every way she was definitely the leader of the pack, and what a pack it was. So I think it all kind of lends itself to some matriarchal role, but winning stuff, we love prizes, and we've got one here. You're gonna get some goodies, some treats, some J2 swag, power bank, that awesome sticker that I'm so in love with. Carolyn is going to pick a random person. This actually is my first rodeo. Carolyn, our producer, is going to pick a random person as a winner. They're going to name them in the chat, and then she will coordinate with that person to get their prize. So keep an eye on the chat for that. And if you're a winner, congratulations. And moving on, we're going to talk about stuff we have going on. This is exciting things. We have additional trainings for boards and managers. We launched the J2 Speaker Series, in-person events in all 3 of the states that we serve this year. We have an event coming up in Utah on April 14th. We have one in the Washington brand new J2 office on April 30th. And so you'll get the chance to see our new digs if you come to that. Look online. If you look at the QR code or just visit our website, look at our socials, you'll be getting an email from me. We'll get all that information out, but there's a lot of really cool opportunities, amazing things we have on the horizon. And speaking of amazing things on the horizon, Andrea, what do you got going on?
Well, for anybody here in Washington State, I can't help but plug the Washington State Community Association annual conference. It's going to be down near SeaTac, so even those on the east side can fly in and stay at I think it's the Sheridan by the airport. It's April 24th and 26th. I'll be presenting with 2 other women on 4 ways of getting to yes, and we are part of the Alternative Dispute Resolution Committee for WSCAI. And I think just like we were talking about advocacy, is learning how to negotiate is a wonderful, wonderful tool that you can use in everything. So look forward to seeing everyone there.
I love it. There is some of the most amazing women at WCAI, and a lot of them are leading the charge on some awesome things.
I am also actually presenting that same day, not at the same time. So you could go, could go to both of ours. I think mine's at 1:30 on that day. And WSCI was playing with our name, but I think it's called You're a Manager Now What? So it's a more advisory approach in being a manager. So I'm going to be presenting with Michelle S. and Haley Graham, and then John Ellis, formerly with Brightview, is going to be on ours as well. So
awesome. Lots of events. April is a busy month in our world. And Andrea, you had a couple of book recommendations that kind of lend itself to your topic that you're going to discuss at the annual conference.
Yeah, and I've talked to many attorneys that are mediators as well, and to a person, they've all read some of these books, but William Ury, he's with Harvard Law, and the Harvard Business Review puts out publications. Getting to Yes, Negotiating an Agreement Without Giving In, and Getting Past No, Negotiating in Difficult Situations. They're both small paperbacks or on Kindle or any other ebook type thing. Easy read, good skills, and I got a lot out of it. Our company's going to be going over it in the second half of this year. So it's a very good reads for anybody in industry, or negotiating with your kids, shall we say.
We all have to negotiate at some point.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, this has been amazing. And if you're like me and you have to have constant noise in the car, in the shower, when you're cooking, when you're cleaning, when you're hot gluing things for crafts, you can stream this as a webinar. We're on all of the major streaming platforms for for our podcast, which is the audio version of what you're just watching, and other topics. We've got a wide variety of topics that we cover. And if you're like me and you have an auto scroll on your podcast, it's not at all terrifying when you're just like moving along and all of a sudden your boss's voice is in your ear when you're roller skating or something. Not at all. But yeah, so check out the podcast. And finally, that's going to bring us to a close. This has been a really unique and fun experience. I'm sure we'll do something like it again. Maybe in person, who knows? But otherwise, we should just all get together in person too. If you have building questions, if you want to ask any of us any other questions, you have questions about getting in touch with any of the ladies here, or you just want to talk to the man in charge around here, he's a wealth of information. You can schedule a free 15-minute consult call at learn.j2consultants.com/consultant on call, or you can just give me a call and I'll connect you. That's going to do it, ladies. This was really fun. I was really nervous and I was really freaked out about that technical thing at the beginning, but you put me at ease. And do you guys have any like parting words or anything you'd like to share?
Thanks. Thanks for asking us to be a part of the panel today. It's an honor and it's been fun.
Absolutely. And reach out via email or anything. Anybody has questions.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, ladies, so much. Have a good day.
Bye.